I'm here to address you. You must go. Ruto must go. Kwapa na hatuendi. Kwapa tunalala huku na hatuendi. We don't fear you guys. You hypocrites. We don't fear you. Mr. Speaker, we don't fear you. Tuko ndani. We stomped inside. Sisi ni nani?
That is just but a snippet from what has been transpiring in the National Assembly over the past few weeks since the Generation Z, or the Gen Zs as they call themselves, stormed Parliament demanding for the resignation of Ruto over what they termed as the refusal of some of the members of Parliament to reject the Finance Bill 2024, which they say stood to hurt very many Kenyans. But of interest, following all these dramas that were happening within the Parliament precincts, has been the Speaker of the National Assembly, one Moses Masika Wetangula. For a moment now, Moses Wetangula has been a man under siege, with some members from the ruling party calling for his removal alongside the leader of majority Kimani Ichung'wah and the majority chief whip Silvanus Osoro. Welcome to the Bold Analysis. My name is Frank. Now, just before we go further, I also want you to watch this clip of the Speaker of the National Assembly, Moses Wetangula, conducting the business of the House in the floor of the very Parliament.
And I expect a lot more from you. Honorable members, the Speaker can read the mood in the House. I don't want to give anybody an excuse to go and play to the gallery. Whether you vote electronically or you vote manually, the result is the same. Order, order, order. I have consulted with your leaders. Order, I've consulted with your leaders, and they do not have a hard feeling either way. Order, 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 order. Consequently, I'll put the question, I'll direct thereafter the division bell to be rung for 5 minutes. The whips, if your members are still loitering out there, you have 5 minutes to get them into the House. Within the 5 minutes, the whips on either side bring your two tellers, and we will then close the bar and go into manual voting. Order. Order. Order, honorable members. Order. Order. I now put the question. I'll now put the question, which is that the Finance Bill, National Assembly Bill number 30 of 2024, be now read a second time. As many as of that opinion say aye. As many as of the contrary opinion say nay. Order, 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 honorable members, order. Take your seats. Take your seats. Order, honorable members, take your seats. You are being disorderly. Before even the Speaker announces the outcome of the Voice vote. You are on your feet. Claiming a division, meaning you are claiming that you have lost. All right?
The Finance Bill 2024 proved something to us as Kenyans. When those youths stormed Parliament buildings, there was a clear message that was sent, even to a point that it was said that they ran away with the mess of the House, which symbolically symbolizes the power of the House and the power of the Speaker. So, many Kenyans on social media, many Kenyans at various interviews have been calling for the dissolution of Parliament. They've been calling for the dismission of members of the cabinet. They've been calling for the resignation of the president of this country. In short, what has proved these demonstrations is that people's trust and confidence within these key institutions of the very Republic of Kenya has been eroded. Now, last week, we touched, I think it's this week, we touched on something, a comparative analysis between the way former Speaker of the National Assembly, Kenneth Oduor Marende, used to manage the floor of the House, and in contrast to which, in the way in which Moses Wetangula manages the business of the National Assembly in particular. People have been sending the message that Wetangula, there is something that he's trying to do that is different. The way in which he conducts the business of the House proves that he's so much of somebody who is so much full of power and full of himself. That is not from me, but from a majority of insiders from the ruling party, the UDA. You know, some leaders have even accused him of being too arrogant. Of course, these leaders, they didn't want to be named. And in particular, leaders from the central part of this country have been calling him as a person who is so much full of power and so full of himself. And even before we go further, I want you to listen to this speech, this presser that was issued by the Nairobi Senator Edwin Sifuna when Moses Wetangula ordered that the 3 senators from the Azimio group camp could not attend parliamentary session even after they written to the clerk of the House requesting to sit at the public gallery just to have a following through what was happening within the Bunge precincts.
Live
the worst
and
speaker
listening.
This parliament, because he is running the House as if he is a DJ at Disco Matanga there in Matisi, that he is controlling the mic himself. He can shut off anybody's mic at any particular point in time. He interjects every time a member is making contributions. Every time it's like him who wants to debate. He forgets that he's not now an elected member of parliament. He should allow debate to flow. And this is a problem when you have partisan people who are still party leaders of their own political parties to run a national institution such as the National Assembly. So we want to condemn Speaker Wetangula and to tell him he's the biggest coward in this country. He is afraid of the people. You can see the sort of police deployment that is out there. That is essentially supposed to protect members of parliament from the public. I am not afraid of the members of the public. Why should members of parliament be afraid of members of the public? These are the people who elected us. And to add insult to injury, he is closing galleries that are essentially supposed, if you read the constitution, parliamentary debate is supposed to be open to the public.
That is Edwin Sifuna, sorry. Then after Edwin Sifuna, I want you to watch also this snippet of this clip of Senator Cherargei making some submissions at the floor of the Senate yesterday, which did witness heated discussions and heated debates about the conduct of members of the National Assembly and the conduct of some leaders in this country in particular.
Even as that happened, Mr. Speaker, and I want to point out this, under Article 118, Article 34 and 35, right to freedom of information and media, we should not, even at any given time, Mr. Speaker, block or deny access to media the way it has been done, Mr. Speaker. We should look access of media to the floor and to parliament prisons case by case, Mr. Speaker, because I'm told there is a silent gag order that has been issued against access of media to the prisons very unfair. Kenyans need to know what is happening, especially as the legislators transact business, Mr. Speaker. So I hope through your office you can consult and ensure that case by case, while I do not agree that...
Now, from the two, it emerges that the leaders, they have some issues with the management of Moses Wetangula as the Speaker of the National Assembly. You know, at some point, a member of Parliament wrote something on Twitter. That is when a motion was presented before Parliament for the deployment of the Kenya Defence Forces officers on the streets of Nairobi to quell the protests that somehow seemed to have overpowered the police. And he raised something that was particularly important, that the manner in which the motion was presented to Parliament and the way in which the business of the Parliament was conducted on that particular time, that even members, a majority of members were not in the House, and the media was not invited in the House, and also it was hurriedly passed. Within 30 minutes, that motion had been presented to Parliament and passed. Why is it that if something is legitimate, then you hurriedly take it to House, pass it the way you want it? And that is the trend that we witnessed when the finance bill was being discussed at the second stage of the bill. Members lamented, some of the members lamented that they were not given enough consideration and enough time to air their grievances, to debate the bill, so that they could have a clear and proper understanding of what the contents of the bill were before it was subjected to a vote. The same Speaker of the National Assembly, Moses Wetangula, was at some point, just after the 2022 general elections, involved in some fiasco, and some people accused him of dictatorship and ignoring facts on the numbers of MPs from the camps of Azimio and Kenya Kwanza. That is when he was to rule on which side had the majority members of Parliament. Because from the elections, Azimio seemed to have carried the day. But now when they reached the Parliament, after some members had been allegedly influenced to join the other camp, then Wetangula, without following the due diligence, ruled that Kenya Kwanza side had the majority. This did not go well with the majority of the members. And even during the passage of the 2023 budget finance bill, some members also raised this very important question about the conduct of Moses Wetangula. And if anything is to go by, I was even surprised that The Nation published some article, which I'm sharing with you right on your screen, of how Wetangula, Ishungwa, and others face the wrath of MPs over partisanship. And the second statement that they are writing there is that some leaders want President Ruto, who is the UDA party leader, to remove Kimani Ichung'wah from his position and also remove Wetangula from his position. This very issue was also raised by Mr. John Mbadi, who said that the two, that is Wetangula and the other two, lacked leadership skills, and parliamentary leadership, I'm quoting him, is about lobbying, and that doesn't mean ignoring the minority side just because they lack numbers. Voters are attacking us because of their remarks in public and also in the House. That one was a statement not made by Mbadi, but a leader from Kenya Kwanza who didn't want to be mentioned from the central Kenya. Now, these ones, it is even a surprise because you compare the Wetangula when he was in opposition and the Wetangula when he's in government, they are two very different people. The difference is just as day and night, because we've known Wetangula over time as a defendant of human rights by the virtue and fact that he's a constitutional lawyer who has so many years of experience and has so much respect from the corridors of courts. But the manner in which citizens raised their concerns, raised their voices against the Finance Bill 2024 and said that this was going to hurt them, then you see a speaker who has been so much the good defendant of the human rights still hurriedly not listening to some of these views and instead seeming to be lining with the executive to see to it that such bills or such draconian in its very own terms see the light of the day. You remember the word draconian sometimes back when he was in the opposition was so much associated with him. When he stood at some point, I remember, on the floor of the House and said that as members of Parliament, they were not going to see draconian bills see the light of the day. I remember very well, that day there was some fiasco and wrangles in Parliament and even some fights between the members of Parliament by then. So, how does it come now that he seems to be the person who is rubbing shoulders with the very human whose rights he is supposed to defend? And also, the way he conducts or has been conducting the business of the House, it seems that he is somebody under the executive shackles. That is the executive arm of the government. Because whatever he seems to be doing, just from the Finance Bill 2024, he's somebody who's out on a mission that is to please some boss, which here is the executive. So long as he pleases the boss, then the rest, that is it. Anyway, I also saw some remarks by, the very remarks, I think I've shared the video, by Senator Cherargei. He was complaining somewhere. He was asking the speaker that how can you always dismiss members' complaints when they are the ones who put you or voted you in that office. That one, he was directing that question to Mr. Wetangula. So, it is something that has come to a time that it does not only seem to be an issue with the members of the minority, but also some of the members of the majority ruling coalition. So, to President Ruto, the grave diggers that are finding you in this current situation, they're just too many. And if you are to take an axe today, then you have to put your house in order. We have to see to it that these arms of the government are independent arms of the government. You know, just within the same demonstrations, some sect of the demonstrators also went to the office of the Chief Justice and attacked the very office. They destroyed property there. They went to Parliament and destroyed property. What message does it send? What message does it send of the public confidence in such offices? It simply means that the confidence is eroded. And even interestingly enough, today, that is yesterday, today, yes, when Cherargei rose to spoke on the floor of the Senate, he brought something to our attention that we've been observing, that since that day that Parliament was stormed, members of the press have been always denied chance to be within the Parliament precincts and even to follow the live proceedings of Parliament. So, you know that when the media is denied a chance to follow on these proceedings, then what does it mean? It means that the Mwananchi cannot be able to know whatever is happening on the floor of the House, despite the Constitution of Kenya 2010 giving the right to information a prominence. Because Article 35 of the Constitution 2010, read together with the Information Act 2016 Part 2, Section 4, I wish to quote and read the quote, that every citizen has the right of access to information held by A, the state, and B, another person, and here that, and where that information is required for the protection of any fundamental freedom. That is what Article 35 also reads, that every citizen has the right to access information held by the state and information held by another person and required for the exercise or protection of any right or any fundamental freedom. Of course, that article goes ahead that every person has the right to correction or deletion of untrue or misleading information that affects the very person. It goes ahead under Article 34 on the freedom of the media. So some of these freedoms of the media are also some of the freedom of access to information. So if indeed Mr. Wetangula is a fair speaker to all, then together with the Parliamentary Service Commission, they should not be seeming to be some people who want to curtail on this very right of the citizens. Thank you for watching. That marks the end of our analysis.